Welcome to Techturks. Today I have Preston of STEARS. STEARS is a digital information company providing information to different sets of people. Preston, welcome to Techturks. And so tell us about STEARS. How long ago did you start, and why did you start it?
Yes, thank you. Very glad to be here. Actually, I've watched a few episodes of this, so to prep myself. But yeah, so when did it start? Well, there are two phases.
Okay.
I would say, right. Full time, we actually started in 2020. So just January 2020 is when all four co-founders actually started working full time on the business. But the other big milestone for us was actually earlier on in 2017 when we launched STEARS Business, which is a publication. That was what sort of kickstarted the whole journey of STEARS, and it wasn't much of a business then. We just thought, let's keep doing this thing because the information and data gap in Nigeria and Africa is wide. So we felt, keep providing this high quality information, and eventually we'll figure out how to monetize it, how to build a business out of it. In 2019, we got the opportunity to start thinking about, how to actually turn everything we're doing into a business. And that was because of traction that we got. In 2019 was the Nigerian elections, the general elections. And so in the build up to the election, people had asked us what we're going to do, because they were looking at us from the publisher's lens, but we looked from the data lens, from the information lens. And so we decided to just pull together all the election results and visualize it, real time election results on election day. And we built the site very quickly. Again, it was still sort of part-time then, but it was just successful because on about 2 days after the election, when they started releasing results, I looked at my Google Analytics, I thought this must be a mistake. Closed it, opened it again, and we had about 2 million people using it, right? Literally clicking and reloading, and it was, that's when we really saw Nigerians fall in love with data visualization and use a different, channel to actually get their information. And since then, of course, we started talking to investors, and then the business really came together on the back of that, and we're able to work full time.
So you quit your day job. So what were you doing exactly? Before you took that plunge, where before, there's always that point where you're doing this job and you're starting a new business, and that transition, and the day you just say, okay, that's it. I'm doing that bungee jump, right? Whatever happens.
Yes, that was actually so before the day job I was working as a corporate lawyer in the UK. To be fair, it was a very nice, comfortable job, right? But I decided, things are happening in Nigeria, and I don't want to miss out, right? I don't want to come back,
Too late.
Yeah, too late, and you'll be meeting people and what's going on. So 2018 was when I moved to Lagos, and it was a one-way ticket. So I knew I've arrived, this is it. I had a bit of buffer. I'll call it buffer because I had to cut a deal with my parents. Being a lawyer in the UK, they said there's no way you can be a qualified lawyer in the UK. You come to Nigeria, you will not be qualified here. We will not be able to call you barrister. So we said no problem. So I did law school from 2018 to 2019, right? So that period, obviously studying, preparing for the bar. I was also thinking about the business, and 2019 things kicked up. But I think that 2018 was very important because I was acclimatizing to Lagos. I didn't actually grow up in Lagos. I grew up in Benin City.
Okay.
So Lagos was new, even though Nigeria wasn't new. And since then it's just been building and building. But I would say when I got on that flight, I knew not going back.
Not going back. Point of no return. Okay, so you're in the digital information business, and you're also in the, I would say, content creation, because you provide content to people for them to make decisions. Right? How do you get your data? How do you verify? How do you trust that data? Because you're also competing with a few content providers, magazines, newspapers, and especially all those bloggers. How do you compete for those resources?
I think I will take one by one. How you get the data. Data is actually a combination of primary and secondary data. I'll use the elections as an easy example, right? The data was actually out there already, right? There's publicly available data. The challenge is how well it is aggregated and how well it is structured. So we spent months, we had someone who was just for about 6 months, whose job was just to collect all the election data they could find on the internet. So we went to INEC website, we spoke to INEC team, we used publishers. For 6 months, someone was just collecting data, right? That's how in-depth you have to get and really, really focus, right? Other times you have to do some primary data collection. So we have actually in the past used agents where people are in different locations and they're reporting in a very, very simple app just to say, this was happening here, and they have to provide some evidence via a picture or something of that nature, right? So it's a combination of using what's available and also going there together yourself. But the last layer and very important layer is actually using data to create even more data, right? And I like to draw this line between like information and data, because to me, data in its raw form might not be very useful for decision makers, right? And when people say want to understand, let me say, financial inclusion, right? You can send them an Excel spreadsheet and they will not better understand financial inclusion, raw data in there. So you find that sometimes people need to just apply that human expertise to understand it, make sense of it, people who really know the space, right? And that's why one of the formats of one of our products is basically a business publication, because there, the real job is getting all that data and turning it into insight, turning it into information by analyzing it, right? So that's the big thing for us. And when you do that, you actually create new data, right? Because either you're sort of predicting something, you're analyzing the past. So after a while, you see the amount of data, the amount of proprietary data you build just grows, because everything you come across, you're taking it in. It could be very simple, like, you're just literally downloading a report, putting it on Google Drive. But after a while, when people use it, they keep creating and creating and creating, and then one day you look back and you have this, large data set of, different pieces of information from different places. So that's the first thing about, getting data. But on the other hand, when you think about talent now, I assume that every startup that's coming has talked about, talent and how difficult it is to find really high quality people. But there's something in STEARS' DNA, I would say, from the very beginning. We're 4 co-founders, and 3 of us were actually at the London School of Economics. And there was a kind of culture that we got used to while we were at the LSE, right? It was really about knowing the causes of things, right? That was like the LSE mantra. So from the very beginning, we had this really, really high standard for information, really, really high standard. And when we came to Nigeria and started thinking about building out, a team that would analyze it, we didn't actually go just for journalists. Now, journalists are the, let me say, traditional contributors to content creation if you're a publication. But with the kind of sort of depth we wanted to hit, where we thought to ourselves, well, we need people who have the domain expertise in the space we wanted to cover, which was the economy, right? So we started going for economists, right? Analysts, those sort of people. So actually, when it comes to the kind of talent that we need, we're more likely to go to a PwC and KPMG to get our people than we would go to, what Business Day or some other publication use. And so that changes the dynamic, because, it's very attractive to young people who are working, the big 4 to work in a startup, and they don't have to be engineers, right? But the talent that we go for is very, very specific, because first, we always say, do you understand this particular sector very well? If you're going to be the person covering energy, our current sort of energy analyst, for instance, was working in a refinery before. So it's that sort of focus to make sure you get people who really understand the topic, and then you teach them to write. Yeah. So that changes the approach, and then everything else is the same. We're all looking for engineers. Everybody's in the same market on those levels.